So today is probably where I should define the channel properly. Because over the past month, I've been using three terms in slightly overlapping ways: bibliotherapy, literature therapy, reading as emotional practice, and at some point, it starts to sound like I'm avoiding a straight answer. It just took a month to get here, so let's call this what it is. Literature therapy is not a formal clinical system. It is not a replacement for therapy. It is not self-help category disguised as something more intellectual. It is a practice, a way of using reading and writing to pay attention to emotional life without turning it into performance or productivity. Now, the formal term that exists in academic and psychological contexts is bibliotherapy. That word has been around for over a century in library science and therapeutic literature. It refers to the intentional use of reading materials to support emotional, cognitive, and psychological well-being. That part is established. What I have been calling literature therapy is closer to the lived version of that idea. Less institutional, more everyday. Less structured around intervention, more structured around attention. And attention is really the core of it, because most people already do some version of this without having a name. You pick up certain books when your mind is loud, you avoid certain books when your attention is thin, you reread familiar novels when you don't want new emotional demands, you open essays when you can't handle narrative presence. You turn to poetry when everything else feels too linear. None of that is random, it is responsive reading. And that responsiveness is what this practice is actually built on. Literature therapy is essentially the decision to take that instinct seriously. Not to turn reading into a system of optimization, not to turn it into productivity, but to treat it as something that interacts with emotional states in real time. There's a reason this matters. Most of the modern reading culture oscillates between two extremes. Either books are aesthetics objects, beautiful, calming, slightly distant from lived experiences, or they become tools for self-improvement. Lists, system, reading goals, performance metrics, both of those remove something important. They remove responsiveness. They remove the idea that a book might matter not because it is good, but because it is right for a specific internal condition at a specific point of time. That is where literature therapy sits, in that narrower, more specific space. And once you start noticing that, reading changes slightly, not in a dramatic way, but in a quieter way. You stop asking what should I read and you start asking what kind of attention do I have today. Because attention is not constant. Some days it is stable and structured, some days it is fragmented, some days it can handle complexity, some days it can barely hold a paragraph without drifting. Literature therapy begins with that recognition, not fixing it, just working with it. I keep saying that we read to know that we're not alone. This is a line quoted and misquoted often in the literature world, but that is not just decorative language, that is a description of function, because one of the most consistent effects of literature is recognition, not inspiration. The moment a sentence behaves like it already knew something about you before you arrived, that moment is not rare, it is just usually unnoticed. So what I've been trying to do with this channel is fairly simple, even if the language around it gets complicated. To slow that moment down, to make it visible, to treat it as something worth paying attention to instead of something that just passes through. Reading is often described as escape, but that is only one mode. The other mode, the one literature therapy is interested in, is contact. Contact with language, contact with internal states, contact with versions of yourself that only appear when mirrored by something external enough to make them visible. And writing is the second half of it. Writing is equally necessary for me, because reading without writing tends to stay incomplete. That's what I feel. Writing is where the noticing gets processed, not polished, just processed. A page after reading where you try to register what shifted even slightly. Not in a dramatic, reflective journal way, just in a way that acknowledges something moved here, even if you can't fully process the feelings. So when I say literature therapy, I'm really describing a loop. Read, notice, write, return. That loop is the practice. And it does not require expertise, it does not require a reading list, it does not require identity as a reader in any formal sense or a writer. It just requires attention. So this month has been an introduction, not to a system, but to a way of noticing what most people already do with books without naming it. Going forward, that is what the space will continue to explore. Not reading as performance, not reading as escape, but reading as something closer to a daily cognitive and emotional practice. Quiet, unforced, slightly unglamorous. And honestly, more useful than it sounds when you first hear it described this way. Anyway, that's the end of this introduction phase of this channel or of bibliotherapy. But I will come back with yet another video tomorrow. We'll talk about something else. Until then, if you're interested in a little bit more about the literature therapy, the Literature Therapy Startup Guide is a small ebook that I've compiled, and it's completely free for all my Substack members. When you join the newsletter, you'll receive the free ebook via email. It is a completely free newsletter, and the whole point behind starting a Substack was that social media can come and go, YouTube accounts can come and go, I can lose my Patreon members, but Substack or newsletters are a way to build relationships between the reader and the writer. That is what I want to do with each one of you. I hope you join, because each member in this community matters to me. And with every member that joins, you give me the confidence that I did not have when I started this channel.